Hey again! Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Thursdays with the hostess with the mostess, Kezza, aka Skylar Loves Gory Movies, which is myself, and my partner in collaboration crime is James Boss, aka Horror Collector. We've been doing this for quite a couple of weeks now. We're enjoying it, and of course, gotta mention Stephen, the Joker 5150, James, DVD Collector 1974, Zach, Movie Collector 666, Shannon, Forkable, whoever else does Top 10 Tuesdays with them guys. So go ahead and look what they do, because they do amazing stuff anyway. So, yep. Back to what we're talking about is Top 10 Thursdays with Kezza and James. And this week was my week to do the topic. I chose top 10 favourite directors. And as you know, near enough every week I have trouble picking 10. Well done to James, my partner in collaboration crime, who managed to pick 10. I loved his picks. If you haven't watched his video, go to his channel and watch it. And as always, let's get into the honourable mentions. And what I'm going to do is try my best to tell you what film they directed as well. So I've got my pads. I can't do this without my pads, so let's go ahead and start my honourable mentions. First honourable mention is Zack Snyder. If you don't know who Zack Snyder is, he directed one of my favourite comic book movies ever, and everybody knows that I'm into Watchmen. Even Lunaria Claire knows, because she sent me a silk sweatshirt notebook, which I still have in the drawer somewhere. So yeah, that's my honourable mention. First honourable mention, Zack Snyder for Watchmen. Directed the Watchmen. By the way, I own near enough all these, well, like by directors anyway. So let's go for the second one. Joel Schumacher directed The Lost Boys. Love that. Love his work when he done The Lost Boys. James Wan directed Saw. As you know, I am a Saw freak. I love the Saw franchise. It's my favourite franchise ever. I know I'm going to get hated on it, but I love the Saw franchise. What it is, I love the gore in it. It's got so much, tons of gore in it. And if I do sound funny to my tongue, before I carry on, if I do sound a bit funny, what it is my tongue. And I've basically went to the dentist and he done something at the back of my tooth, and basically my tongue's like licked the back of my tooth, right behind my teeth, my bottom two teeth, and basically it's cut my tongue, sliced my tongue a little bit, and that's why it's a little bit funny for me to talk. So apologies on that. So let's continue with the honourable mentions anyway. Paul Brinkman, Risky Business, directed Risky Business. I love Risky Business. Iconical scene for me is the whole boxers, the socks, the white shirt, bopping away. Now, if you really do know me, right, and if I get a chance, say like half an hour on my own without going on YouTube or whatever, you will know that I will dance, and I will just grab one of Peter's shirts. He's my partner, or fiance, obviously, and like some underwear and a pair of socks and start just bopping away, because that's just me. I like doing quirky things like that. So Yeah, so let's continue. Tom DeSimone. If you don't know who Tom DeSimone is, Tom DeSimone directed this movie. So, honourable mention for Hell Night. Great film. Of course, you cannot do a director without mentioning or even putting in Sam Raimi. Two of my favourite films ever, Evil Dead and Drag Me to Hell. Love, love, love the films. I've got a few more to go. Alan Parker, if you don't know who Alan Parker is, Alan Parker directed Midnight Express. Next one is Raichi. I think I pronounced that right. Kitamura. He directed, I think I've got the film here. Oh, I put it away. Sorry about this. This is annoying me now. Yes, I have directed No One Lives. Love this Blu-ray. Hasbro's Clay from WWE. That's why I got it. And he also directed The Midnight Meat Train, which I also own, with Vinnie Jones. Next honourable mention, needs no introduction, is Lucio Fulci. Love my giallo, love my Italian horror gore, and I couldn't do a top 10 without honourable mentioning him. Mel Gibson. You'll probably think, why have you got Mel Gibson down? He's an actor. One of my favourite non-horror films is Braveheart, and I couldn't do it without putting a mention in for him. And Midnight Express. And of course the last one is, last honourable mention is Barry Sonnenfeld, who directed The Addams Family. Now, before I continue with my top 10, you're probably thinking, honourable mentions, why she put directors with like one movie or something like that. Now, to explain more about my top 10, as James did with his, I'll explain more on my top 10 before I do it in full detail. It isn't about, say like somebody's top 10 had like a director that directed about 10-12 movies. That's not why I'm doing this top 10 list for favourite directors. This is directors of movies I like and what James is like. And I love James's list. James has done a perfect list, which some I was surprised at and some I wasn't. So just so you know, the list I've done is for films of my favourite films directed. So like, say like certain films that I like, they'll all automatically be my favourite director, if you get what I mean. So, as sort of explained, I will go ahead into the top 10 now and hopefully remember what they've directed. Number 10, Clint Eastwood. You cannot have a top 10 without having Clint Eastwood in your top 10, in my opinion. Directed, as far as I know, I think it's 310 to Yuma or Yuma. I'm not quite familiar on the name, but I do own it. And Flag of Our Fathers. They're two of her that I know that he's directed. Outstanding. Like, he's one of my favourite actors of all time. Period. Like, non-horror. But to direct, he's just an artist when he directs. So, that's my number 10, Clint Eastwood. Number 9 is Matt Farnsworth. Probably some people that are into more mainstream films will not have heard of half of these directors that I've got on here, or some. But this one in particular, if you don't know who Matt Farnsworth is, Matt Farnsworth directed Tok. Now, Tok is the initials for The Orphan Killer, and the soon to release The Orphan Killer 2. I absolutely adore The Orphan Killer. I love the effects, I love everything, I love the way he directed the film, and that's why he deserves a place in my top 10. Number 8, James Horror Collector. If you haven't seen his channel, he mentioned this is his top, I think it was his number 10 entrance. It's been my number 8, and of course it is the Soster Sisters. They of course directed Dead Hooker in a Trunk, which I own, American Mary. They're soon to be releasing See No Evil 2, which comes out in October, and they've also done directed a couple minutes of a short film collaborating on the ABCs of Death 2. So they absolutely deserve a spot in my top 10, and as James said, they are brilliant people, artistic directors. They definitely know the stuff. I'm also friends with them on Facebook as well as James, and they do. This is what I like about them so much. They, as James said, now just to elaborate a little bit more, they do have time for their fans. They reply to you. They'll wish you happy birthday. Just little some things that are really nice. They're so into the fans. They just love the fans. Everything about the directing work is just fantastic. So amazing. So that's number 8. Number 7 is Martin Scorsese, director of an amazing film called Taxi Driver, starring Robert De Niro. I love that film so much, and he is just an amazing director. Fantastic. Need I say more? Sorry, runny nose. Number 6, I had to put this person in my top 10, and of course it is Sylvester Stallone. He actually directs one of my I have like certain types of favourite films. There's like my favourite horror, favourite non-horror, favourite like get up and dancey type films. This is like my number 1 get up and dancey type of film, and it's surprising that his brother does the most of the soundtrack to this film as well, and I had to put Sylvester Stallone as a director. And if you didn't know, Sylvester Stallone directs Staying Alive, one of my favourite films. I love Staying Alive, non-horror. I love when it comes to non-horror, that's one of my favourites. I love it. I could just sit there for hours just watching that film, just putting it on, stopping it, putting it on. When it finishes, putting it on again. Just an amazing film. So Sylvester Stallone, my number 6. Number 5, an absolute genius. I had to put him in. Didn't know. This is where I was getting a bit stuck between my 5 and my number 1 entries. It was just so hard, and I had to just slot him here. He could have been higher, but for at the moment he is number 5, and that is Tim Burton. Ooh, he directs so many films: The Corpse Bride, Dark Shadows, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, I think he done Sweeney Todd, I'm not too sure. Oh, he's an absolute genius. Johnny Depp is an amazing actor. He's really suited to them sort of type of movies. And oh yeah, and The Nightmare Before Christmas, I forgot all about that. That was the one that was eluding my head. So yeah, The Nightmare Before Christmas, he also directed. He is just a genius. I know loads of people hate his work. They don't grasp what he does. But Tim Burton, an absolute legend, and deserves a place in my top 10 for that reason alone. Right, number 4 is a director I don't think you've ever heard of this person, and that is S. Lee Taylor. S. Lee Taylor is a genius. He is outstanding. He is amazing. Just fabulous. And if you don't know what film I'm on about, S. Lee Taylor directs my ultimate favourite film of all time. Like, there's 2 films that are my top favourite films of all time, and this is one of them. And it is, of course, The Secret Craft. The Secret Craft is just an amazing film. I was basically near enough was brought up watching that film. I was like 16, 17. I think it was 17 when it first came out. And I just love the film. I just think it's the way it's set. I know, spoiler alert, I know with it being set in a high school, a lot of films go, oh, it's shite, whatever. But this is like totally different to your typical high school film. So for that reason, it's got to be in my top 10 favourite directors. He is just amazing what he does. So yeah, S. Lee Taylor is that number 4. Number 3 is my favourite Italian director of all time, and that of course is Dario Argento. Here we go with lists. Sleepless, The Card Player, Tenebrae, Phenomena, Deep Red. He co-directed with Lamberto Bava with Demons and Demons 2. What else? The Stenhouse Syndrome. Cat o' Nine Tails. Terror at the Opera. The list goes. Dracula. Had a stint in Masters of Horror with Jennifer. Oh my goodness. This, when Dario Argento directs a film, it's like he has the power in his finger to make everything turn to gold. That's what his movies are like. They're fucking fantastic. Need I say more? Oh, wow. So, that's my number 3. Number 2, of course. If you know your Asian movies and you know me by now, of course, my number 2 is Takashi Miike. Dead or Alive, Dead or Alive 2, Gozu, Visitor Q, Audition. I think of what else? Imprint. I think it's The Fly or Fall of Catistic, something like that. Oh, easy. Him and Dario Argento are on par and par together directing. They are just my all-time favourite, near enough my all-time favourite, bar from one other person that just beat them to the punch for my number 1 spot. But Takashi Miike is like Dario Argento, directing films. Everything he touches turns to gold as well. I just love Takashi Miike's work. The gore, the artistry, the awesomeness, the everything. It's when you watch a Takashi Miike, you're left speechless because it's that good. That's all I can say. Right, last but not least, number 1 for my top 10 favourite directors list is a director that you've probably never heard of, but some people bite of, and that is Danny Steinman. If you do not know who Danny Steinman is, right, I go on about this film all the freaking time. I'd put it in my top 2 favourite actresses of all time is in this film that he directed, and it is of course Linda Blair. And I'm so happy that Danny Steinman directed this film. He reminds me of, he's a bit like Esley Taylor and Matt Farnsworth in a way, but Danny Steinman's got that little twist of things, like that element of surprise, the element of a twist especially in this film that I'm about to talk about. And it is of course Savage Streets, my number 1 favourite. You can't really say it's horror, it like be a subgenre, and he's my favourite director of all time because of that film alone. And oh my goodness, he's just an amazing director. I'm speechless now because I'm talking about Danny Steinman. He's a great director. It's just basically the way he directed Savage Streets. You had your kills. There was you seen quite a little bit of the blood. You saw the infamous rape scene. Spoiler alert again. I like that gang element where it's like a girl gang versus the guy gang. I love that part in it, and I love. The best thing I love about it is where Linda Blair gets her revenge and starts killing the other rival gang. That's my sort of type of film that I like. I'm into sort of stuff like that. So yeah, before I go, I'm going to put a little disclosure at the end of this, right? I know when people talk about favourite directors, they talk about the directors of how many films they've done, whereas me, on my top 10, just to explain at the end quickly, it isn't about how many films you've directed, it's how you've directed. Even if it's just like one film, like The Orphan Killer or Savage Streets or The Secret Craft or Staying Alive, films like that, if they are directed perfectly like they did in what I've described of them, basically deserves an entry on my top 10 list. So that's why I had to put the little disclosure at the end, because some people's gonna hate and some people's gonna like comment, oh, you should have had this director. At the end of the day, it's my list. And as James said on it is our list. We do encourage you to like do your own and like comment as nice things, but we don't like say, oh, you should have had this director because they've had this amount of movies. I don't see it like that. I'd rather do a list of my taste and what I like. So there's my little disclaimer. So yeah. And of course, next week it is James's week. I cannot wait to see what James comes up with this week. And if you haven't already, go and check out James's channel, DVD Horror Collector, see, blooper alert again, James Boss aka Horror Collector. Go over to his channel if you haven't seen his video, and if this is your first video that you've seen of mine, welcome. I know I film all my videos on a tablet and it just goes straight through whatever, but at the end of the day I like doing this and it's fun, it's entertaining. I like to make people laugh when I do these top 10 lists, so yeah. So please comment, and if you want to subscribe away. And I hope you like us, myself and James, doing these top 10 collaborations, and I will definitely see you all soon. Big thumbs up from me, and a ta-ta for now.